G'day friends, family, fellow patriots. Lord Stompy here in Adelaide, South Australia. Welcome. This is part 3 of my video series on the tyranny of the soft liberal dictatorship that we European people live under in Western lands. Now, there are links to part 1 and 2 in the box below. I advise you watch those ones first. So, in part 1 and 2, I was discussing how European people, immediately after World War II, were tricked into doing a devil's deal. Essentially, we were tricked into signing over our Western homelands and signing over our natural Western souls for the abstract ideology of worldly liberalism. Now, this is no exaggeration. In my last video, I was talking about when Jesus said, "What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul?" Now, this is exactly what's happened to European people after World War II. Before World War II, in the thousands of years of European history, we European people had our own lands, we had our own worldview. It was natural and native to us as people, and after World War II, we basically signed over to a worldly cosmopolitan view where we were tricked into accepting that we're all these worldly global citizens. And this is exactly what's happened to us and our people. Now, with the deal of being a worldly global citizen, of course, all these bad things came as we've had generations of open borders that have flooded our Western lands with tens of millions of foreign pagans. We are now paying the ultimate price. We were tricked into, instead of having our worldview and our mindset being focused on our own people and our own nations and our own families, which is the natural mindset for thousands of years for all European people. We've been tricked into accepting these abstract ideals of freedom, democracy and equality. So we've traded in blood, soil and honour for essentially this very this abstract middle class idealism, this worldly idealism. Instead, that's taken the place of upholding our European nations and our families with pride and honour, you know. And in my first video, I was pointing out how if you are a traditional minded European who wishes to maintain your nation and your family lineage and your honour, you are now, literally for a long time now, you have been the enemy of the liberal state and the liberal man himself. If you wish to protect and preserve your people and your culture, this is now the greatest evil which you can possibly carry out in the eyes of the liberal man and the liberal regime. This is a great evil for you to actually obey the natural impulses of any true European and protect and preserve your culture and your people with pride and honour. This is you are now literally going to be viewed as being some kind of continuation of Hitler. And this is an incredible change. In my second video, I was talking about how my grandparents' generation, the war generation, still, they were the last remnant of imperial Europe, essentially. Sure, and I did point out that they were already being corrupted with globalism and liberalism, but not at all to the degree which the post-war generations have suffered. And it's quite incredible. If you go back about 200 years into history, into European history, and you tried to describe the age we live in now and the mindset, the zeitgeist and the spirit of this age to European people only 200 years ago, isn't that long? They would be astounded. They would basically see this modern age as being some kind of complete suicidal insanity. And indeed, they would actually be right with this view. I mean, let's think about this. What was the point of thousands of years of our European ancestors fighting to protect, preserve, and maintain our European nations and our European countries, if the end goal of all of this was just to throw the borders open and invite tens of millions of foreign pagans into our lands and then destroy ourselves? I mean, we could have just done that, literally done that, thousands of years ago. If that is the end goal of the evolution of European people, is to basically destroy themselves culturally, spiritually, and genetically, we could have easily achieved that goal 3,000 years ago. So this is the modern mindset. It's a complete inversion of the natural order. It's a complete inversion of every natural impulse of European man. And this is why the natural European man, the traditional European man, is now the enemy of the modern liberal European man. We just by merely existing in as a natural and traditional European man, you are actually standing opposed to the tyranny of modern liberal globalism, and you are actually a threat to its global hegemony. And so it's only natural that liberalism wants to completely eradicate you, destroy you. This is why they demonize the natural, and European man is demonized because of this. Now, there's a very interesting angle to the soft liberal dictatorship. Is before World War II, most of our European leaders had some level of honour and bravery and sacrifice as part of their mindset. One of the last great traditionalist European leaders, for instance, was General Franco. And it is interesting that General Franco was a man who basically practiced what he preached. Originally he was a very, very well respected, brave soldier in the Spanish army, and he went on to become a very robust protector of his nation and his people, and he wasn't afraid to use might and to use force to defend his people and his borders and his culture and traditions. And this is exactly what modern liberalism is afraid of. It's afraid of the traditional man of strength and honour who stands his ground. Right, so this is why the liberal dictatorship that we live in wants to keep everyone as atomized and deracinated and weak as possible, because it's very clear to me, now that I've looked at history, that the only thing that will really stop this increasingly sick and cowardly liberalism, this liberal cancer that is basically a mindset of the cowardly technocrat, the man with no honour, the devious plotters who think they can run nations through plotting and deviousness and lying. The only thing that stops these kind of people is essentially a dedicated band of men who will stand and use force to defend and protect their honour and their traditions. And so this is why there is these concerted campaigns from the liberal elite. So as soon as men stand up united and begin to show some level of aggressive defence of their traditional way of life, these nationalistic types of men have to be demonised and neutralised by the liberal system as quickly as possible. Because if these kind of movements grow and men actually start using might to enforce their will, that they would like to maintain their traditional culture and way of life, if they start to enforce their will, this is the only thing that the cowardly liberal system actually cannot stand up to, because it is indeed a system of cowardice. It's a system of weakness. It's a system of the devious high IQ technocrat who actually has no physical strength. And the high IQ technocrat, the middle class cosmopolitan, they actually, the vast majority of them are cowards, and they have no actual strength, and this is why they are so insistent on the cult of freedom and democracy being the ruling forces, that they're basically the ideals that liberal culture is told to aspire to, because freedom and democracy essentially they're toothless. It's not, freedom and democracy is not about maintaining traditional culture. It's not about maintaining your bloodlines or your people. It's about essentially freedom and democracy is mob rule and self-interest. right? Freedom just means self-interest, right? Whatever is in it for you in the moment, just whatever hedonistic pleasure or fleeting joy that you can get from life in the moment. That's freedom. In this modern world, that's what freedom is. Okay, maybe 120 years ago, freedom meant something different to European man, but in the modern world, freedom now means hedonism, self-indulgence, self-gratification. And democracy just means basically rule by the mob, and we are now an idiocracy. The average person in the West is so brain dead and so corrupted by the cult of liberalism that almost none of these people would know what's in their best long-term interests. They will only vote for whatever hedonistic pleasure and self-interest is in front of them next. So this is an incredibly self-destructive and short-sighted system that we're in. This is something that modern liberalism and freedom and democracy have done more damage, like really serious, permanent, long-term damage to European civilization than anything else. There has been no external threat in the history of Western culture that has managed to do the damage. Even when the Saracen hordes, the Muslim hordes, back in the Middle Ages, had invaded Europe and occupied most of Spain, even up to southern France. They didn't manage, our people were under hundreds of years of occupation by a foreign culture, and that did less damage to us as a people than the modern cult of liberalism. So when the European people did the Devil's Deal after World War II, I pointed out in my second video that we traded in tradition and blood and nation and honor for a bunch of abstract ideals, abstract worldly ideals, and that was equality, democracy, and freedom. That's the holy trinity of modern liberalism: democracy, freedom, and equality. Right, so ever since then, essentially our leadership classes have been basing all the decisions, the major decisions that drive European civilization, have all just been based on the most abstract kind of values. And even by the 1980s, essentially we had Thatcher and Reagan bring in the economic liberalism and neoliberalism and all this. Now, economic liberalism and neoliberalism, it's just these really abstract ideas. They are not grounded in the soil. They're not grounded in blood, and as essentially these are just these are just the ideals of technocrats. The ideals that drive Western nations now are just these abstract technocratic ideals. We're being driven by the ideas that are formulated by bankers, technocrats, and bean counters. And once again, I will look back to the past, and one of the last great nationalist leaders here in European lands was General Franco in Spain, and he based the post-war Spanish nation that he ruled was based on blood, tradition, and honor. Right? The abstract ideals of how you run economies and freedom and equality and democracy were very, very secondary in Franco's Spain. And this, for centuries in the West, thousands of years, this is the way it was. Abstract ideals were secondary to the real stuff that life is made of, which is your people, your nation, and your soil, and your honor as a people. So this is what we're under now. We're under the cowardly cult of the technocrat, and they need to keep the population as atomized and as frightened and as timorous as they possibly can to keep this regime going, because they themselves are scared of real men, of honor and blood, and these men are the stuff that our European ancestors were made of. The modern technocratic elites are terrified of the great European ancestors who built our nations and protected and defended and preserved our nations. Okay, that summarizes my views on these matters. I will see you soon. Deus Volt.